Welcome, everybody. My name is Brenda Donald, and I have the distinct pleasure of being the director of the DC Child and Family Services Agency. We don't have enough chairs, sorry. So thank you so much for coming. Today we will honor 2 exemplary foster and adoptive parents by opening a room at CFSA in our new beautiful building that all of our foster parents can use and enjoy. CFSA gained a number of amenities when we moved into these new quarters last September actually, and we're very pleased now during National Foster Care Month to devote some of our space to the people who are our essential partners in keeping children safe. I'm so grateful to all 200 of our CFSA foster parents, those are our DC foster parents, in the district who provide temporary safe havens that allow children to stay in the city near their school, family, and friends. This room will be like a lounge for their exclusive use where they can borrow educational books and videos, take online training, look up policies, hold meetings, wait to see someone, or just relax and regroup whenever they're in the building. The 2 foster and adoptive parents we're recognizing today include the Honorable Eugene N. Hamilton, who will give the room its name, and C. Kenneth Johnson. I also want to take a moment of remembrance for Deborah Bird, who passed in March. Ms. Bird was a foster and adoptive parent and had been president of the DC Metropolitan Foster and Adoptive Parent Association since 2007. Some people just understand and love being around children, and Ms. Bird was one of them. She is missed by many. We're glad to have with us today the new president of the DC Metropolitan Foster and Adoptive Parent Association, Irma Clay, whom I just saw over here. Thank you so much for joining us. Our dedication ceremony today will be simple and meaningful. We'll open with remarks from several of our dignitaries and special guests from the Hamilton and Johnson families, and then we'll cut the ribbon to the room. And we invite the Hamilton and Johnson family members to be the first to see the pictures of the honorees of their family members who will be forever posted in the room. And after that, we invite everyone to take a turn around the room to enjoy refreshments and out in the main lobby of the building. So I now want to introduce our distinguished speakers and ask them to please come forward. First, we will have the Honorable Mayor Vincent Gray, Mayor of the District of Columbia.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Keep on, keep on. Thank you all very much, and good afternoon, everybody. I want to thank you all for being here to be a part of what is really quite an auspicious occasion. First of all, let me recognize the council members who are here. Councilmember Jim Graham, who chairs the Committee on Human Services and has this in his purview. I know he deeply cares about this issue. Jim, thank you for being here. And Councilmember Tommy Wells, who represents this ward, but also by academic training is a social worker as well as an attorney, and actually worked at CFSA for a time. So I know this has extraordinary significance for you too, Tommy, given what you have done with your life. I also want to recognize Judge Eric Christian, who is with us this afternoon, who's a man too who has done an enormous amount for the city. In addition to being a celebrated and outstanding jurist, he also is pretty accomplished in a number of other areas of the District of Columbia. Your Honor, thank you very much for being here as well. To Margie Shalofsky, who is here, I worked with Margie for a number of years back in the day, as we say. You know, we're at the stage where we don't use years anymore. We just say back in the day, Margie. And of course, our outstanding director of this agency of CFSA, Brenda Donald, has done an extraordinary job. It isn't just that we have new digs here. This is really an absolutely high-performing, extraordinary agency under her leadership. Brenda is someone who I've had great admiration for a long time, and she is a native Washingtonian who. And I think, am I wrong that you went to Ballou High School, Brenda?
I went to Hart, actually. My brother went to Ballou.
Okay, all right. So Ballou is in your family?
Ward 8.
Yeah, all right. Ward 8. And so she knows clearly what the issues are. And you look at foster care as a barometer of whether we're making progress in part. It's not the only barometer, but there was a day, and it wasn't so many years ago, that we had 3,300 children in foster care. And today we are around 1,300, a little more than 1,381 children in foster care, which means that we have come down by 2,000. And that speaks volumes. It means we're getting children out of foster care into permanent homes, and we're helping to create permanence by keeping children, where they are in the first place because of the increased array of services that we have here. So, Brenda, thank you so much, for what you do. I think we also know, yeah, let's hear it. I think we also know that even though we are delighted that foster care in terms of its need in the city is diminishing, it probably always will have a place. And there is always a place for great foster parents who open their hearts and open their homes to receive children who really are at an extraordinarily traumatic time in their lives. And that's what the foster parents who are here today and so many others across the city and across the region actually do and support, because so many of our foster parents actually live outside the city. Many of them live in Maryland and support our children here in the District of Columbia. So again, can we have a big hand for our foster parents? We again are excited about the fact that our child welfare system is really moving in the right direction here in the city. And the right direction is to be able to get to the day when it's aspirational, probably not realistic, but it ought to be aspirational when we have no children in foster care, because every child in the District of Columbia has a permanent place to live. Perhaps they will have been in care for a short period of time, or perhaps they will have not been in care at all, because we've been able to help keep families together or get them immediately into another family situation. Today we honor two people. Ken Johnson, who I knew extremely well. I worked with Ken. There are very few people who had a bigger heart than Ken Johnson. He not only was an extraordinary foster parent, Ken worked in the Department of Human Services and worked in the Office of Child Support. And for those who knew Ken, you also could get a pretty good bid whist game around at his house, too. Anybody play bid whist in Ken's house? Me. And for those who play bid whist, there are no trash talkers worse than those who play bid whist. And anybody know what a Boston is? Everybody know what a Boston is? Boy, he could give you the whole rundown on how you get from the District of Columbia to Massachusetts in a bid whist game. But most of all, he was somebody who deeply cared about children, and children cared deeply about him. And you have just legions, of young people who benefited from his care. And then the Honorable Eugene Hamilton, who too was a dear friend of mine. I was actually looking at a photo yesterday of Judge Hamilton, who did the swearing in when I was elected to the council, Ward 7. He was the person who did the swearing in for me, Mrs. Hamilton. He was somebody who, I'm not sure, everybody or many people knew how much he did beyond just being an incredible jurist in the District of Columbia. A man who was born in Memphis, Tennessee, went to the University of Illinois, where he got his undergraduate and law degree. Went into the service, became a JAG. Oh, well, all right. Now, where did? Not even half, huh? Right. Yeah. Hey, you're not going to get me to argue with that, okay? And wasn't he a good man, Mrs. Hamilton? Yes. He was just a wonderful man who had an incredible heart. And what you all did together. I think I'll leave that one alone today, okay? Like all men, okay. Right. Women didn't have any shortcomings, right? Oh, okay. You don't have any shortcomings, right?
Apparently not. Ms. Hamilton.
Yeah, if Ms. Hamilton says it, it is what it is, right? But he worked at the Department of Justice also as a trial attorney, and then he became a judge after that, didn't he? Became a judge back in the 70s, and in the mid-90s, somewhere around the mid-90s, he was appointed as the chief judge for the Superior Court of 1993, Superior Court of the District of Columbia, only the second African-American in the history of this city to have served as the chief judge. And, he became known, and you probably know this, he became known as the people's judge because he had such a warm demeanor, and he just really reached out to people in such a way that's the way people knew and loved Gene, as he was called by so many people. I ain't going. Well, is it?
I understand that when he was in court with the lesser criminals of the court, he was known as Mean Gene.
Mean Gene, okay.
Handing out long sentences.
I see. There's another, there's another phrase, Mean Gene the dancing machine, but that wasn't him, right? That wasn't him. Anyway, that was his court activity, and at home with you, he was the parent to many. Is that right? As I think you all probably had, 50 children, at least over the years. You know what? I'm gonna let you come to the microphone. Yeah, we got a good little dialogue going on here, right? You know what? Come on up here. Come on. So Mrs. Hamilton. We've heard a little bit about Mean Gene already, okay?
Yeah, okay.
How many children did you all have?
I think we probably had, because we had children, we usually took in the babies that were drug babies or had severe or complicated health problems. So we took them in as infants. And some stayed with us for a period of time. We also adopted 4 of our special needs
Yeah,
children.
you had 4 children with disabilities too, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And my son is here today, and stand up, Keith.
All right.
I'm very proud of this young man. He's a twin.
And I'm sure he's very proud of you and
Well,
the
I
judge
hope
too.
so. I
Well,
hope so.
I'm sure he is.
I
So,
hope so.
what do you think of having a room named for the Honorable Eugene Hamilton?
He would be exceptionally proud of that, he would. Because I hesitate to say this, though we lived in Maryland, his heart was in the District of Columbia.
All right.
He loved the district.
I
He loved the district.
so that 75% of you is what kept you all in Maryland?
That is correct. That is correct. That is correct.
Yeah, I see.
That
Well,
is correct.
should we put Mean Gene?
Oh, no.
Oh, we shouldn't put that. We shouldn't put that on the
No.
on the room. Okay.
No.
So we should just say the Honorable Eugene N. Hamilton on the door.
That will suffice.
Okay, that will
I
suffice.
wouldn't want you to have to change that.
Yeah.
We would.
Anybody have any questions about who was in charge? And I always thought Gene was a pretty assertive guy too.
He was assertive when he was told to.
Oh my gosh. Yep. And on that note, everybody. We have learned more about Judge Hamilton in the last 5 minutes than we all knew in the last 15 years. Thank you, Mrs. Hamilton, for being here with us. Thank you, sir. We're glad that you were with us too, Keith. I am going to now gracefully turn it back over to our director, to Brenda Donald, okay? Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right, Johnson family, when it's your turn, so you can have a spokesperson too. But I'm now going to invite the Honorable Eric Christian, Deputy Presiding Judge of the Probate Division of the Superior Court of the District of Columbia, who is a good friend and colleague of Judge Hamilton's and is here also representing a family court, Judge Zoe Bush, who couldn't be here. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Mayor, I don't think I need to stay up here. I think Mrs. Hamilton did it all. Mayor Gray, council members Graham and Wells, distinguished guests, family members, the Johnson family. It gives me great pleasure to bring greetings on behalf of Chief Judge Lee Satterfield and the D.C. Superior Court and to recognize and applaud the opening of the Eugene Hamilton Resource Center. The court also applauds the recognition of Kenneth Johnson for the wonderful work he did as an adoptive foster parent to over 145 children. And I know his sister is present today with us. Yeah. That's a lot of work. Chief Judge Hamilton would be honored and extremely proud to learn that the center was opened and named on his behalf, for it epitomizes his life history and his body of work as a jurist and as a person. You've learned that he and his wife, Virginia Hamilton, had 5 children, adopted and raised others, and they themselves hosted more than 50 foster children, right? And one of the questions invariably asked of each judicial nominee at the Senate confirmation hearing is why one would want to be a judge. Superior Court nominees could easily answer that question. They would want to follow in the footsteps of Chief Judge Hamilton, that is, to be someone.
Let there be light.
Let there be light. There you go. And that's what Judge Hamilton did. Wherever he walked, wherever he went, he let it be light. And so it was through the mayor. But that's what Judge Hamilton did and continued to do. And, you know, the nominees would say they would want to follow in the footsteps of Chief Judge Hamilton, that is, to serve their community. And indeed, through Judge Hamilton's 3 decades on the bench, he did just that. He was intelligent, even-tempered, compassionate, efficient, and extremely dedicated to his community. He chaired many mayoral blue ribbon commissions, served on several boards, including the Capital Area Food Bank, and taught at various law schools here in the district. The 2 judicial assignments that I believe were near and dear to his heart were those in the probate division, where I'm presently assigned, as well as that in the family court of Superior Court. In the probate division, he presided over cases where he would carefully monitor the lives of seniors in our society who were approaching their twilight years and had become vulnerable to the point where what we call guardians and conservators were appointed to manage their affairs and provide for their safety and welfare. He loved equally his assignment in family court because he really understood that the most impressionable, our children, had the right to be safe in an environment where they had an opportunity to grow and develop mentally and physically and become successful and productive members in our community, to be our future leaders. And another story from Ms. Hamilton, she recounted to me when they were honoring Judge Hamilton up at American University Law School, renaming the mock trial championship trophy after him, was a story one night when Judge Hamilton was late in chambers, and he called to inform me, if I'm recalling the story correctly, that his work that evening would be extended because he was bringing home I think it was Mr. Brown, could have been Mr. Powell, there we go, bringing home Mr. Powell for a continued meeting and inquired whether Ms. Hamilton could prepare dinner. Just like today, Ms. Hamilton had a few choice words for her husband because it was short notice. It wasn't planned, but, you know, she hurried nevertheless in preparation. Ms. Hamilton told me she got the house in order, brought out the best china, sent one of her sons to the market to get a choice cut of roast, and was able to get everything prepared just in time for their arrival. She had run upstairs to fix up when Jean, affectionately known, came upstairs and greeted her and let her know that Mr. Powles was down talking to the kids and waiting for her to come downstairs. And, you know, she ran downstairs, and when she got there, Mr. Powles was in the room talking to the kids, eating ice cream. She turned around and looked at Judge Hamilton and says, "Where's Mr. Powles?" Mr. Powles was about the size of the little tyke there. Another kid that he brought home. The soon-to-be newest member of the Hamilton family. And it was just that way. Just like Mr. Johnson, the judge was known for taking his work home, literally taking in those who were in need. And that's just the way he lived, ladies and gentlemen. He welcomed all and helped all in a compassionate and non-judgmental manner. So it's fitting that this resource center is an extension of the Hamilton living room, the Hamilton home, where foster parents can have a place to come and a space of their own to get online, check out books and read, and just to relax and get their composure back and be strong enough to raise these wonderful children and in these families to have a place to grow and flourish. So again, we congratulate the city, Mr. Donald, Mr. Mayor, on opening this wonderful resource center. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Arnold. What a wonderful tribute, and so delightful. And I did know Judge Hamilton when he headed up the family court when I was here before, but I'm learning so much more, and it's just so heartwarming, and so glad that we're doing this. So thanks for being here and sharing. I'm now going to invite a good friend and supporter and an advocate for our kids and families, Councilmember Tommy Wells, who I understand, I think, whispered in someone's ear when they were thinking about building or getting this building developed and said, you really have to have a place for our foster parents to come and they can feel that they are part of this whole family and this building. And so with a modest offering, but we did that, and we're glad that you're here to help us open up the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Brenda, very much. Mr. Mayor, I so appreciate the wisdom, and I don't know what it took, but to recruit Brenda Donald Walker to come back to D.C. to take over the child welfare system. And Brenda, you've done a fantastic job, and you've got a great team. I'm very proud of what you've done. So thank you for your leadership. Now, I know I'd like to invite Ken Johnson's family to join me up here. So if all of you, if you're comfortable, come on up and stand with me up here. And it's good to see everyone. Come on up. Come on in, get comfortable. I know we have Ken's sister here and the rest of the family. So first let me acknowledge Judge Hamilton. Chief Judge Hamilton, as many of you who knew him know that he was kind of the model of what you would want your chief judge to be. And he was kind. I don't remember him from the mean period, but he was a very kind, strong kind of fellow that just had a presence to him that evoked leadership. And it's certainly a model that I know that Chief Judge Satterfield and everyone at the Superior Court views as that's what a chief judge looks like, and that's how he behaves and acts and leads. And he's someone who inspired me a lot throughout my career. And the thing about Chief Judge Hamilton, again, Ms. Hamilton, you know this better than anyone, he would serve on any task force we asked him to. Either we'd put blue ribbon on it or whatever. He would serve on the task force, and he was engaged in anything to do with children and making it better in the district. So he was really exemplified the best in civic leadership. And I know you know that, but he certainly inspired the rest of us. So I'm glad that we have a room here with his name on it. Now let me tell you about C. Kenneth Johnson. As the mayor stated, I used to be a social worker here at CFSA. And I worked on, at that time, what they called the teen unit. And so on the teen unit, that mostly my caseload were teens. Now I had a couple of cases with Ken Johnson, and he exemplified the best in foster parenting that you can imagine. And at least he did to me. back in those days, I don't know if you've ever seen the show Barney Miller. Anybody see Barney Miller? That's what it looked like as a social worker. We had the little rotary phones with the push buttons of which line was yours, the beveled glass and the steel partitions. And I remember I would see Ken's head coming down the aisles, coming towards me, and he was not a guy that would necessarily even call you. He would come down when he wanted something for his kids. He would come down to the agency, sit at your desk and say, this is what I need. So one of the things that he was famous for is he would bring the Girl Scouts that were under his care. He would be sure that if he could, he would get the foster children, the girls, to get in the Girl Scouts, and he would come down to the agency and make us all buy Girl Scout cookies. And he would stand at your desk until you filled out how many, and he would look at how many. And we, it added to all of our girth, but we all bought Girl Scout cookies. And one of the things about Ken that was special is that you win an award or a trip for selling the most Girl Scout cookies. So Ken's girls would always sell the most Girl Scout cookies. And at some point, it seemed almost unfair. So he would let his Girl Scout pick a friend to join her to sell. We also had to buy from her friend so that there would be 2 girls that would win. Ken was amazing. Other thing about Ken is that I was the social worker for my friend Quinn Alston. And Quinn is a very respectable young gentleman, but when he was a teenager, he was a normal teenager. So during the week, Ken was the kind of guy that would advocate and love the children, the young people they took care of, and he was very forgiving. So I remember one particular week, Ken would call me every day. Quinn did this. Quinn came home from school early because of this. Quinn was out late with this. Quinn, this or that. And then the next week he called me and said, Tommy, what do we do about getting Quinn a driver's license? I thought, really, Ken? We spent all week on this, and now it's about getting Quinn a driver's license. So Ken was a fabulous father, and he really is the father that we all wish that we had, an amazing foster father, and I'm so glad that we honor him today. Last thing before we ask whoever you want to pick to speak on behalf of the family, I love that when people come in here, that we have a room right here by the front door that says to our foster parents, this is your space. We don't have a foster care system. The children are the most important part of the child welfare system, but we don't have a foster care system without foster parents. And so when they come in, they have a room that's for them, a quiet place, make phone calls, a resource center that says, this is for you. I greatly appreciate that. That's the kind of statement we want to make as a city, that our foster parents matter, and that room does that. And thank you, Brenda, for doing that. So with that, it's either Quinn or you guys pick who should speak on behalf of Ken. Quinn Alston, everyone. Good to see you.
I would like to say in advance that story was very exaggerated. It is truly a blessing to come back to Child and Family Services and have my dad to be honored with a room to which he fought so hard for. And not saying that was his goal, but believe me, he felt the pain of each and every individual to whom worked or traveled through the doors of Child and Family Services. When you didn't see him, believe me, he was still thinking about you. He was thinking about how the operations, the budget, the city budget, all the above, because all of it affected children. It all affected children and families. A lot of times, because, those of you who know me, I spent a lot of time at Child and Family Services as an employee, and I couldn't get off work. When I got off work sometimes, I didn't even want to go home because I knew what he wanted to talk about. But it was very important to him that I took my job seriously, because anytime I slacked off, I hurt a family that I never saw, and it was real, And I can say that all the love you see behind me here came from that man. That man, a foster parent, it's a nice title, but I like to call them life builders. because Ken Johnson built lives. He built mine. He built mine. From what he was told I was, to what he saw me to be, to what he made me to be, is what I am now. So on behalf of my family, everybody wave, do something. Come on, everybody, get them cameras up, come on, snap. We truly want to say thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you, Tommy Wells. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council members. And thank you, Ms. Brenda Donald. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much. Again, words that reinforce why all of us are here and why we continue to do the work that we do, and how much we recognize that it really takes this whole partnership. We're almost done. I'm going to call up my dear friend and teacher, Margie Chalofsky, who has helped me to understand and to grow in my appreciation and respect for what we need to do as an agency to support our foster parents and to be responsive to them and to learn from them. And so we spend many, many hours doing that, and so I'm always glad that Margie is here, really helping to guide us and create that balance for our support for foster parents. Margie Chalofsky.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm really honored to have been asked to be part of this presentation with these amazing people and these two incredible families. I also just want to wave to Donna Flanori, who is an amazing foster parent on my board, who's back there. First, I would just like to thank the people at CFSA who got this room up and running. Of course, Brenda Donald, Deborah, Portia Usher, who I think it was your ear that Tommy may have whispered into back then, Ray Davidson, and Mindy Good and staff, Derek, for this program. I mean, there's an amazing amount of work that went into this, and I just really wanted to acknowledge that. As every foster parent knows, parenting inside a system can be very challenging and can sometimes take heroic tenacity and advocacy. We often say there's a piece of this that only other foster parents really get. When I told my own parents 20 years ago we were going to become foster parents, they acted as if I was going to skydive blindfolded into the Arctic Ocean. They may have been right, a little bit. But there are the deepest and most poignant rewards. The reward may come when the children in your home begin to trust you and blossom under your care. The reward may come when you can successfully help a birth parent to reunify. The reward may come when you can become a permanent parent. And the reward may come when a child in your home makes it into college. Sometimes the reward may come when others in the child's life really see you, validate your role, and understand the commitment that brought you here. In these past few months alone, I have witnessed many indications of the deep commitment of the district's foster parents to the children in their homes. Just in these last few months, I've seen a foster parent bring into her home the grown siblings of her foster daughter. I've seen a foster parent cancel a trip across country to visit family because the foster child could not go. And I've seen a parent in tears when a child who presented many deep challenges, whom she had grown to love, needed to be moved to another home. When we started FAPEC almost 13 years, launched by Tommy Wells, thanks a lot, Tommy, we joined forces with our partner in crime, Barbara Collins, who was then the president of the Foster Parent Association, and together we went knocking on doors for inclusion. It was then I had the great pleasure of meeting Ken Johnson, and his advocacy paved the way for all of us who came after him. Back then, it was really, really hard to get our voices heard. We knocked on doors, we knocked on doors, we knocked on doors, and we have come a very, very long way. Today, foster parent voices are sought for inclusion throughout CFSA, and this is a different CFSA, one that strives to encourage partnership and encourage teamwork. I really appreciate the opportunity to address this group today, and I thank CFSA, the leadership, and all the staff for their commitment to providing a room that says to parents, you are welcome here and you are part of us. Thank you.
And I would like to ask Chairman Jim Graham to please come up and say a few words here. He is a real advocate. He pushes us really hard, but he's been a major supporter since I've been back here and is really committed to the work that we're doing here at CFSA. So thank you for coming. And
thank you. Thank you. You know, it's a great honor to be here today and a great pleasure also to be in this distinguished company. You know, it's nice when you get things named after you, you know, you get a plaque and all of that, but it's especially nice when you get something named after you that represents so much caring as this does. And I suspect that Kenneth Johnson is probably here today. And Chief Judge Hamilton is probably here today. We saw eye to eye, Chief Judge and I, if you get my drift. And you can feel the spirit of people who really, really cared about other people. And most importantly, they cared about other people who were the most vulnerable, the most vulnerable. And so to have this, and this is what this door says, should say, is we care about you. Now, Councilmember Wells, thank you so much for what you've contributed to this, and Brenda Donald, but I do want to close with this comment. I feel so positive about what's happening to human services today. And so much of that leads right back to Vincent C. Gray. We are so better off to have as mayor of the District of Columbia somebody who has really dedicated his life to what? To those most vulnerable. He did it at the Ark of D.C. He did it, excuse me, not the Ark, but what was your first? The Ark of D.C. And then Covenant House. And as I often like to share, you know, in between both of those endeavors, he was the director of human services. When it was the whole shooting match, you know, he had everything under his direction. And, you know, the pivotal moment for me when I think about Vince Gray is that once he had finished 4 years in that directorship, you know, some people would have gone right to K Street. They would have gone right to wherever the contracts were, wherever the people were who were seeking contracts. But Vince Gray didn't do that. He went right back into the nonprofit world, right back into a difficult situation in the nonprofit world, right back to people that he knew needed him. So to have somebody with this kind of energy and experience and really appreciation for what that's all about has made such a difference to this government. And it makes a huge difference in terms of the work of the Committee of Human Services and all of the wonderful people he's brought us. Because, you know, with all due respect, Ms. Donald, she didn't come from nowhere. You know, she came from his pen. And so did the other fine directors that you've appointed. Mayor Gray, I'm so proud to be part of all of what you're doing here in the District of Columbia. Thank you.
Well, this is a great afternoon here at CFSA. I want to acknowledge my wonderful team here. This is the best team, and the work that we've been able to do in this past year and a half is really the tip of the iceberg of where we're taking this agency. We are transforming child welfare in the nation's capital, and we are going to be the best at what we do in supporting families. And an amazing team of people, just a few of who are represented here. Before we go, we're going to move over to do the ribbon cutting and have some acknowledgments in our room. I do want to point out in our building, we have, to the right is our on-site clinic. Cheryl Durden is the administrator who runs that. We built this into this facility, and this is where all children who come into foster care are brought in a very sensitive and nice environment to be screened and to have some counseling. We want to make sure that we know as much about them as we can and bring them in and to get them prepared to go into their foster families. There's some rooms along here and along the corridor where you'll be going to the reception that are our visitation rooms, and then you'll see how beautiful they are. They've got books and toys and family-friendly furniture, and we know it's not the best to have families come and visit at the agency. Sometimes that makes sense. We do have visitation out in the community and in family homes too, but within this, we've tried to have a building that would be responsive to the needs of our families. And I want to thank Ray Davidson, who's our Deputy Director for Administration, for leading that effort. A lucky thing that just fell into my lap. I didn't even know when Ms. Mayor talked me into coming back here that I was going to have this fabulous new building. I was willing to come and toil at our other building, but it does make a huge difference, and we have other things in the building as well, a state-of-the-art call center for a hotline, and wonderful light and airy offices and meeting rooms, and so there's a lot of interaction here. I think that I'm correct in saying that I think morale and energy and the positivity of the people who are at CFSA now is at an all-time high. And everyone works so hard and so tirelessly, and we really, really believe that we're doing this for the right reason and that we can and will chart the course for an agency that supports our kids and families in DC. So thank you all for being here. This is just one example of what we're doing in partnership with all of you. So thank you.
All right, everybody ready? Ready.